everyone. Hi, Nikhil.
Hello,
Hi,
Michelle.
Swardy.
Hello,
Hello,
guys.
Jim.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Yes. Did you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I can hear
Okay,
you.
good, good.
Welcome.
Good.
All right.
Had my
So we
sound
are
on.
live on YouTube. Okay. All right, guys, we are live on YouTube. It's Monday morning, 8 a.m., and we are working on chapter 6 of the book Invocation of Presence. And I guess before we begin today's meeting, let's just spend a few minutes with the attentizer exercise as we usually do. Uh, and I'll share my screen. Just let me know if the motion is smooth enough in the beginning. Is it a smooth motion?
Yes, Nikhil.
it's good.
Awesome. Begin. And break. All right. Welcome, Swati. Did you just join? I don't remember someone just joined, I guess.
No,
Bhavini, I
uh,
think.
Bhavini.
Oh, hello, Pavni. Sorry about
Um,
that.
oh,
All right. So let me start sharing my screen here.
Mm.
All right. It looks like we are beginning with a new chapter, but before we do that, does anyone has anything they would like to say or any thoughts about the previous chapter? Bernie had this paragraph on confession that I believe I shared with the group. But any other thoughts before we jump in? All right. So let's begin with this new chapter. It says 3 levels of work. Uh, Anybody wants to get started with reading?
I can
Feel free
start.
to do so.
I
Thank-
can. Yeah. Can you scroll a little up? Chapter 6, 3 levels of work. Presence is the only discernible something which is non-phenomenal. If we mistakenly say I when we really refer to the machine, we must find a way to bring this involuntary lie to our instant attention. But how do we know which I is which? We must learn to really stop, look, and listen. For example, the organic machine may desire a glass of Armagnac, but I care nothing for the things of this world, particularly food and drink. It leaves these hungers to those animal forms and lower organic consciousnesses who wander in the world in search of pleasures, amusement, and superficial organic satisfactions. If, when referring to the machine, we happen to somehow involuntarily lose the attention and substitute I, when we really mean the machine's I, we should find an appropriate reminding factor. In this series of exercises, one must, in this case, always refer to the machine in the third person it, as in, it wishes a glass of Armagnac. When referring to parts of the machine, we must remember to refer to the part and not to the whole of the machine, and definitely not in the possessive, which is to say, the hand itches, not my hand itches, or I itches. Unconscious form of possessive identification suggested by the ordinary language of organic sleep can, if we know how to use the sensation of remorse, become for us a tool of self-remembering. This new view of the presence exercise will be the first penetration beyond the surface. It is the first series exercises. And I pass.
Someone asked, is there also an esoteric form of these exercises? G replied, if not, then we are wasting each other's time. For the preparatory sensing, feeling, and mentating series of exercises, there is a beginning obligatory form, a mesoteric form, and a special hidden form. The exact method is given in the first form. Its rough centrum of gravity indicated in the second form. And in the third form, the mantle is lifted and the corresponding view of the unveiled kingdom is revealed directly through a transforming initiation. Then, the exercises you gave at the beginning are not objective, someone asked from the back of the room. They are objective only in their esoteric form, G explained. But the esoteric is given only when one has earned a, in quote, diploma of authentic understanding in the mesoteric. This, in turn, depends upon not just mental familiarity, a passing acquaintance engendered by the head brain, which can be expressed in the following way. Aha, I can see the results of this exercise. So since I can see its purpose and have already performed the exercise 11 times, no sense going on any further. Let us just say that imaginary success is the same as genuine success and be done with it. This is the usual course of a false man's struggle with himself and clearly shows to us how exactly the secret keeps itself. And I pass.
Real initiation requires serious concentrated effort and the attention of the sensing centrum to ensure that our efforts are not merely imaginary. Never will we be able to just think ourselves out of this mess. Before the inevitable personal annihilation provided by dear nature occurs involuntarily to our organic machines, propelling us head over heels through the veil, we must discover the means to use our activities productively for our being and for the greater good. Before our annihilation destroys our chance to work for the non-phenomenal side of the veil, we must evolve into a definite, unique place in the world. It seems to me, said Jay, that exoteric ideas are given freely. Mesoteric ideas are just hinted at, and esoteric ideas are a definite second wind phenomenon produced by special effort in the first two forms. This seems to me to be the process of initiation or initiatism, as you have described it. I wish to know it. My formulation is correct and complete. Or is there more to it that I cannot see? I cannot yet see. I could provide you with the three answers, all different, each suggesting new questions and experiments. G replied. In the first place, your formulation is correct and complete. In the second place, you could dig deeper. And in the third place, yuck, but why even talk about the third place? G laughed deeply, lapsing into complete silence which continued through the remainder of the evening. At dawn, G went off to the market with a few helpers to shop for the next evening's food. Oh, and that's the end of the chapter. Wow, definitely a jam-packed information in here. I just want to quickly talk about this three ideas. I just want to make sure everyone here has heard about esoteric, mesoteric, and then exoteric.
I haven't heard of exoteric.
Okay. Well, I can tell you what I know about it. I don't remember which book I was reading, but it definitely talked about the three levels that is very universal in most schools, and it also connects the way the human brain is developed as well. Uh, so there are the three levels are the exoteric, the mesoteric, and then the esoteric. The the one which is mostly available to common people and is the exoteric. Uh, in most temples, in the ancient times, they would have things going on within the school, but there will be activities which are available for the outside public, which anyone could participate in. And those were the exoteric uh, ideas and events. And then there was the mesoteric, which was only for the initiated. It was only accessible to people who were initiated in the school or the temple, and they could access the inner areas of the temple or the school. These were mostly people coming in from others, other countries, other schools, trying who were interested in a certain temple or a school. And then there was esoteric, which is the inner circle of the temple and the school, where the initiated students who have worked their way through exoteric and mesoteric now have access to the esoteric circle of a school. This would usually be a confined, a closed group, and mostly be the children within the circle who grew up in the temple or the school. Well, this is the information that I have. Maybe someone else can add to this information.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikhil. That makes sense. Thank you.
This chapter reminded me of one of the exercise that was given to Mr. Rajan Vakil by his teacher. If anybody heard about it, he has talked about that exercise so many times that for 6 months, you are not supposed to use word I. Anywhere you have to use I, just like, form the sentence in the passive voice or do something that can convey the meaning, but not to use I. And the same day that happened as he was in Bombay with his teacher, and then his wife was in the Madhupur ashram, and then his son was like, I think he was 6 months old, and he fell sick, like severely sick. And then Rajan Vakil went to his teacher and said, my son is sick, and my wife is calling. He's like, whose wife? Whose kid? What are you talking about? So this very first paragraph reminded me of that incident, and even his recent talks, he talked about that exercise so many times that at least for 3 months, don't use word I.
We could actually reduce it to at least a day. We could start with that. Or an
How
hour.
about a few minutes? How
Yeah.
about a few minutes?
I think our could be doable, because what happens is that we're so used to saying I that every time to remind yourself that you're not it, just to start off.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
The one thing,
Uh-huh.
go ahead, Paul.
No, I just recall that that was my first early response to the I as well. I had totally forgotten about it. The first time I ever got introduced to Bhagwan and the ashram, we started reading Man's Possible Evolution by P.D. Ouspensky. And that's when we created this exercise for ourselves, not to say I. It didn't come from anyone, but like we both were reading it and we decided, let's try it. And it was so amazing to see like how many times you were saying that I'd totally forgotten about that. So I just recalled that with this. Yeah, that's all.
Nice. So you're saying that you did go through the exercise of pointing to yourself that, hey, I'm referring to myself as I.
That was in like 2004, 2005. Yes, but like that was
Wow.
the initial exercise which we started with, because that book like literally chops you up into the way you are, and then the way P.D. Ouspensky marks at it, like it was so amazing, like how everything you consider yours is like, it just discards everything you see as you. So that,
Yeah.
that was pretty amazing.
While reading this chapter or reading this initial part of the exercise of picking out I noticed how automatic it is, how automatic this habit is of referring to ourselves as I, that even though I have been pointed to this exercise, I still refer to myself as I, and still uh, I can catch myself I just realized when I was talking about the esoteric and the mesoteric, how frequently I use the word I, and how frequently I'm using the word I now as I speak. So that gives me a good peek into uh, the autonomous nature of this. And it kind of feels weird to refer to yourself as its hands. There is a kind of uh, you're distancing yourself from the machine, and it sort of feels weird.
One thing is about the Paramhansa Yogananda. If I'm not wrong, he referred, like after he got enlightened or something, he started using as, the Yogananda is hungry person. That's a Paramhansa Yogananda, that he never used word I after he got enlightened or some experience he gone through the samadhi. So, but this is the good thing too, like even we in a group, right, we can formulate some kind of exercises, at least not for everything, but at least 5 activities that we do use every day. And we might be like, using word I, we can at least become that time, we can put the consciousness for that particular activity to not to use, if not for 24/7, but at least for few activities a day that we, or everybody would be like that. That would be interesting.
What I realized during the exercise is that when you just create a mechanical habit of not using I, it is just a kind of a habit that you're breaking basically. But if you start looking at your body, like say you're moving the hands and then you notice that it's moving by itself. So then you suddenly realize that you're not doing it. It's happening by itself. So when you start observing your body, that I will automatically differentiate because so I think the observation is the key instead of not saying I is also working on the habit together with that. Because one is the habit of constantly attaching yourself to the body, but the other part is that when you're seeing the body constantly, like for example, right now, if the hand is moving, but it's the hand which is moving, it's not I, So like I'm not telling the hand to move. Well, if the hand is down, so the mind is actually telling the hand to be down. So like constantly seeing your body will that's what I recall that's what helped separate the I, because you suddenly realize it's not in your control, basically. So when it's not in your control, you automatically cannot relate to it because it's a mechanical habit which is developed. I don't know if that makes sense.
So to add to that, Bhavini, if we create a conscious habit, is it not the real I that is working there instead of the machine's I? Like say for particular activity, say I am not using that I for 2 particular occasions in a day. That is it not, maybe like question to everybody, that is a conscious habit that my real self is trying to embed in that pattern, like to break the mechanical habit?
I think any effort you do will be closer to your to working towards knowing the I. But it is not the I, but like it'll at least be closer to making you basically aware in the moment. And that's what we want. Like the awareness will probably lead us further, So, I mean, awareness is the key, I believe. So it doesn't matter like whether it's 2 days or like 2 times. I think any moment which brings us in the moment, I think that's it, So
So
I mean, whatever, I don't know if someone wants to add to that.
I think Swati was trying to say something, but I think there is something wrong with her connection. I couldn't. Heard her start speaking, but
Yeah,
I didn't hear anything after
Am I
that.
audible now?
yes.
Yes, yes, you
Okay,
are.
so what I was pointing out was, say I take two occasions, pick any of the two occasions which is common almost every day in my routine life, and I decided from like as of my work that I will not use I for explaining or whatever in that particular occasion, but I miss it. So I remember of one exercise I used to do long back, and I think it was part of some other group that in the night time, when you go to sleep, you try to recollect, like, where you missed that you really wanted to work on, but you missed those ones. So I will go back, relive those two occasions, say in this example, and then I will put, even though those events has already passed for today, but I will put my consciousness there when I will, like, do the retrospector at the end of the day. So next day, when I will again come to that particular event or occasion, that time, my real, like, the work will come, I would be conscious that time, or maybe I will try to conscious. So I'm just trying to say that isn't it something that, like, conscious habit, we are not developing the mechanical habit to break the other mechanical habit.
That's a beautiful habit to go back to that and try. That's a great, I would love to do that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Swati. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I think the habit that we develop through conscious efforts are the voluntary habits, and the I that is related to those voluntary habit is different from the I that is dealing with the involuntary habits.
Mm.
There is the eye of the machine, but there is also other eyes. So I guess that's when we can get confused in the language and the limitation that it has.
You might want to consider when you say like I think you used the word essential habits or habits of the something like that. Instead, maybe use those are tools that you've developed, tools of awareness that come up when they're needed. That would be a tool that you have at critical times. In the context of the mechanical habits, those are just literally machine operations. Like in the last chapter, we were talking about our becoming, kind of aware of our mechanical habits when they came up, and then confessing that, right? Remember last chapter? A long time ago. Well, in the same way, I think not using the term I is also societally wrong. I mean, let's say you're in the meeting with somebody and they say something, and your answer is, well, I'm able to do that. Or instead you say, well, Bhavani can do that. I mean, they're going to freak out and throw you out of the room, right?
So that's what that was.
So the key is awareness of it, and to begin to develop the discernment between the mechanicality. So if you are asleep and you just go, oh, well, I did it, and it just goes on and on and on, then there's no awareness of it. But if you can turn the awareness on, in a sense, and that happens because you've studied your machine, then that is a tool that you have that you can kind of take anywhere. You can take it on the road.
Welcome, Nishant. We just read through chapter 6 today. It was a short chapter.
Yes, thank you.
What would you say if you don't say hi? You would say it?
Well, that's what the Gurdjieffians say, like it's wanting water,
Mm.
you know. And maybe there's truth to that. That's how it works and stuff like that. But if you're doing it by yourself or with another in a very, very close group, that could work. But if you start doing that when you're at the store, going out of it from the cash register, they would probably, I don't know what they would do, throw you out.
I remember this episode with my guru, because I was in a certain state of I, like in the very beginning. And then I was just saying that everything feels like, it's not attachment and blah, blah. I was going through that phase, you suddenly realize. And then he just, but then at the same time, I had the same question, but then the I, like, you have to use it, And then
Mhm.
he said that the I is the necessity of the society,
Yeah.
but knowing you're not the I.
Okay, so this is good. This is starting to get into, so the the exoteric interpretation of this chapter would be, like what we read, just that the I is mechanical, and you can, so working with that mechanicality, turning it on and off is kind of a simple exercise, right? Just don't say I. Well, that could just be just as mechanical. But what if you raise your level of consciousness to the level where you're observing what it feels like when you use the mechanical I? Can you discern what the energetic signature when you might be using the profound I? See what I mean? So then that would be more the mesoteric methodology of using that same exercise. I think Nishant might have a comment.
Yeah. I don't know what the chapter was, but now you're talking about the I. One of the techniques that Rajan talked about during this last meeting is to recognize which I came up. Like if son is calling me, then the father's I came up, the employee I.
Good.
So which I is
Very
coming
nice.
up to observe that?
So what does it mean to observe that? Like, let's say that you're sitting there and you go, oh, I gotta have that ice cream. Okay. So that's one I. I know that it's a holy I. It's very high if it wants ice cream. Must be.
Yeah, it has to.
Excellent.
Yes, completely agreed.
Okay. So it has a nature to it, doesn't it? Or what if you say, I've got to get there on time. I'm going to be late. Oh my God, am I going to be late again? what are they going to say to me when I'm late again? You know, of course I'm a jerk and I am a jerk, and the whole guilt thing starts to roll in. That has a different tenor. That's a different I.
Yeah. And he actually divided, as you said, one is the real I, the what is called fictional I, and then there is an imaginary I. I mean, fictional is not the correct word. He was using some other word. Like if a son is calling me and I say, okay, father's I came up. That is
Mhm.
one I, the society I. But then I am the best father. That's the imaginary I. So
But
to
then there's
differentiate between,
also, Nishant, there's also the father.
yeah,
When you are in the role of the father, that's a different level of I too, isn't it?
right.
Okay, so
So Nishant, he uses acquired I as a father.
Acquired I, right. Yeah, that was the
acquired.
word. Yeah, real I, acquired I, and imaginary I. So to identify which one is right working right now, like when you were talking about, I said, oh yeah, I know this answer, so that the what is called the work I came up that okay, I can contribute. But my contribution is the best, is the imaginary I. Uh,
Well, I just want everybody to know that I have to be right, okay?
yeah,
And
yeah,
really
absolutely.
need to be right here. So,
Uh,
well, at least if I'm not right, then at least I'm accepted, okay? So there's all then you can begin to discover the different shades of the mechanicality. And, there's the imagined ones, I guess, what Rajan would say would be those that maybe we learned very early on, and then we acquired those that are kind of our defensive eyes, right? How to how to survive in the world. Not easy.
mm.
But
Can
then
you?
there's the royal eye, the when we become I. Go ahead.
I just wanted to hear the three I. I couldn't hear them very well. I heard just imaginary, and I couldn't hear the other two.
So he said
Acquired.
real I, acquired I, and the imaginary
Thank you.
I.
One of the most difficult things for this I was to realize that it is undergoing through a mechanical process. That was the most difficult one for me to admit to myself that, hey, this is mechanical. It was a
Let
huge
me
ego thing
let me ask you why that's the case. What makes that realization about yourself so difficult, Nikhil?
because the mechanical I, always thought that it was in control, and it whatever it is doing of my volition, not its. So in a way, I thought I was in control, not it.
I see. So you mean
And
you're mechanical? You're asleep and mechanical?
mhm. And to
Well, we
realize
don't.
that hey, I'm just helplessly drawing wherever the eye goes, and I'm just here watching, and that's all I can do. And I'm here just helplessly, going through this experience. That was um, difficult transition, but it was very essential to make any progress afterwards.
Well, we've all known that about you for all these
Oh
months,
yeah.
okay? The difference
That's
between
great.
us knowing that about you and you knowing that about you is that You judge it, we don't. We observe a fellow worker caught in their mechanicality or not caught in the mechanicality. It's when you attempt to own the mechanicality that it gets really funny. And I think that's what Rajan was helping people with, is that for right now, it's just there. Go back to chapter 5 again, and the concept of confession begins to free you of it. Like, the more specific you can be about your mechanical I-ness, Nikhil, like really specific, that's like the first moment of freedom. And quite frankly, when you say, oh, I notice that I am a mechanical I, you're really not saying anything, are you? You're just, that's the intellectual center going, oh, that must be working because they all say it does. But specifically how it works, and if you can allow yourself to hold that in your precious hands with your precious attention, then you begin to provide what I call the beginnings of the cleansing radiation, the beautiful radiation, the cleansing radiation of the essential attention. How cool is that, right? But if you don't ignore it or you judge it, and that's what Bernie's email was about, judging it is the safe haven. You're safe from your own declaration of what you say.
Yeah.
Could you maybe speak more on that?
About judgment?
Yeah.
And you mean, or when we exhibit, I call it indulging in guilt. Okay. When we
Indulging in
indulge
guilt.
in our guilt, it's kind of safe because everybody goes, oh yeah, I'm like him too, and I'm like them. It doesn't do you
I
any
see.
good. Like, let's say you really like lemon drops. Okay. And every time after class, as soon as class is over and you turn the camera off and you just start downing lemon drops, right? Well, that's okay. And it's a mechanical habit, but watch yourself do it. When you go, oh my God, that's really bad, then you're not really looking at it, are you? But watching the monkey eat the lemon drops, not only is it fun, but it's actually one moment of freedom. And that I, called Mr. Lemon Drops, is kind of got like an independent existence. That's a separate I. And it's sitting there doing its lemon drop thing. But kind of acknowledge it. Acknowledges, oh yeah, that happens to be in me, but I'm not going to let anybody in the world know how addicted to lemon drops I am. Because I can hide that, I can hide it from the world that I'm I'm an addict. Lemon drop addict. But it doesn't do you any good to successfully hide it from the world or from yourself. But you watch the physical sensation of the addiction arising. okay. And you go, oh, look at my hand. Oh my God. It's look how it just goes to the lemon drops, right? That's fun. Does that help at all, what I'm saying about guilt and
I think what Nikhil, when he was observing himself, what he mentioned was that there's a kind of pain in seeing yourself
yeah,
being so not in control. And I think that pain is necessary for growth, like because every time it's like a caterpillar transitioning into a butterfly. And it is that
Mm.
immense pain, but uh, it's necessary for that transition. And that is the beauty of it. So uh,
Nice.
yeah, so I think that pain is the beginning, basically, of the separation from,
Okay, that's good. That's
from
good.
the transition from the caterpillar, where the transformation is started. Like that's how.
Well put. Well put. So the pain or the sensation of pain can be a marker that says, interesting. Here's something I need to work on. If I'm really afraid of talking about my lemon drop addiction, and if I think I'm really afraid that anybody's going to notice it, and so I just don't say anything, or then I just coat it in guilt. The, the guilt is another buffer, isn't it? It doesn't let you see it directly. It's actually kind of like we enjoy our guilt because it's a right? It's a sin that we can live with, and our friends believe us. But if you
Mhm.
tell them about your lemon drop addiction, they're gonna go, "What a jerk," you know.
So it kind of
So
like becomes one of our chronics.
it guilt probably is not a chronic for anybody here, but it's a powerful habit. It's a powerful habit. And you can notice
Mhm.
yourself indulge in the guilt. Oh my God, there it is again.
So, David, in that context, I have a question. Say, my imaginary I, or you call ego, is flying high. Okay, it's eating all the chocolates. That what a good girl am I. Okay, and then my work, I caught it up in somewhere the process of that flying. And then I realized that somewhere what you're saying is this guilt, or maybe something like I can feel the feeling of like what others will think of me. When my work, I realized that the imaginary I was flying high, I caught it up, but then work I feel is that I'm not sure who is feeling that. I'm just trying to struggle between to find it out, or most likely it should be the imaginary I that feels what others will think of me, that I was just telling my stories. And
Well,
so
that's a
is it a
different
buffer?
that's a yes, it is. That's a different I altogether. Okay. There's the chocolate loving I, and it standing between the chocolate addictive personality and you is the guilt. Oh my God, I feel really bad. I'm bad that I'm doing this, and everybody will hate me because I do it. Blah 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 blah. But you never talk about the thing itself. The chocolate, the vacuum cleaner.
So how to work on that part, like?
Well, first you have to have a sense of discernment about what is what does guilt feel like, right?
Okay.
Like if we spent the next class, like all hour, talking about what a bad person you are because of your chocolate addiction, you know, after a while, it would just be funny. The guilt it's something that keeps you away from the direct observation of the thing that it is buffering. Guilt keeps you away from the thing that it is buffering.
So what should be the exercise? Let's say, for example, in this moment, I'm feeling that, okay, this imaginary I or ego was flying high, work I caught it up, and then you said there is a third eye or some other eye that is came up with the guilt. So what should be the exercise for the or the work eye for at that point of time? Like what's
Yeah. So just ignore all of that garbage and just look to the eye that is trying to eat the chocolates.
Actually, can I add to that, Swati?
Sure.
So I think the very first observation you had was that this imaginary ego is flying high. The moment you had that observation, the one who wanted to change that observation, that is when the flip happened. Because the one who said that, oh, what will others think, that did not let you observe the flying eye. So for me, the most important point is that the moment you observe that the ego is flying high, where is it flying high? Like what part of your body is it affecting? When you feel that high, where does it affect your body? Just that. No changing, nothing. Just the feeling of that eye. Like say you have a certain addiction to that flying high ego. Where is it affecting? Does the heart start blowing up, like start expanding, or is it the head start expanding? Like where exactly in your head? Like when you're flying high, there's some point in your head which it's going to affect. So instead of just flipping that, oh, what is somebody else thinking? That's the same eye which was flying high, it just flipped. But say if I don't say that, now the point is that you live in that flying high. Live as long as you can in the flying high. Like that's my ultimate. Like you have to feel that fly high moment as much as you can, as long as you can. And then you will get that effect of where is it affecting your part in your body. And when you start observing that, suddenly the observation will catch it. And then it'll automatically fall down by itself. So that's one thing which I've observed. So instead of flipping it, feel it, like be totally engulfed in it, the fly high moment, like feel it. What does that moment feel like? And just be totally in it. Like no other eye can enter, feel that high. Like that's when without any other eye, if that makes sense.
Okay, but then simultaneously I have to keep up my work eye going together too, right?
No, the work eye is already when you observe.
Okay.
And then when the feeling high is happening, the work eye is already in its place. The observation is already in its place. But the feeling high is a moment you just have to feel. There's no other eye. Like the moment the observation happened, anyone who's trying to flip you away from the observation is this eye flipped. So don't be a part of that. The only thing is just feel the high moment. Just that, like where is it affecting you in your body? Like, sometimes you're so happy, you're just dancing. But where is that happiness going in your brain? So or sometimes it could be in your heart, sometimes it could be in your brain, but just feel it in the immensity of feeling. No other eye, just feeling it, And then if it's supposed to drop, it'll drop. If it doesn't, let it be, but feel the eye. So that's what I've experienced, that when you just feel whatever the emotion is, if it's guilt, just feel it. Feel the guilt in totality. Like, where is it making you feel guilty? Like, where, So, and when that guilt will constantly work on you, you'll suddenly realize that, oh, this is where the guilt is affecting me, So then you catch it red-handed. When you automatically feel that, oh, what is someone else thinking? It just made you away from that moment.
So I found that what you're saying flip, right? It's like a pendulum. So it goes to one extreme, and then when I start feeling like, oh, you know what others will think of me, then again, same imaginary I or the ego gets down. Then again, after a while, it will pick up the momentum, go back to the first one. Yeah, so I could see that motion, going back and forth, pendulum kind of thing.
Yeah. But that pendulum is actually the same one going from this to this. So if you just catch this, then you made it stop here. Because
Okay.
you're now totally feeling that. The moment the flip happens, like when it's in motion, basically it's like when you're in motion, it's hard to observe. So what the mind is trying to do is it's trying to play a double role. That same emotion which is making you feel high is the same one creating a guilt. The same one which is doing this is that same one flipped. So whenever it's doing that, the mind is playing a game with you so that you cannot observe. But when you just observe that intensity of that one thought, like say the flying high, whatever that moment is, or say the guilt, or what will people think? Like, what is that thought? Now that hang on to what people are thinking. What is that feeling of when someone thinks about you like that? What is that feeling? Feel it in your body, like through and through, just be in that moment. Like be in it for as long as you can. Not just for a minute, for a flying second, but like live it totally, So that's when you live it totally, then suddenly you realize where it's affecting your body. And then that flip will automatically happen. That's what I noticed. So if it helps,
Yeah, thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely that makes sense. It's easier said than done as well, but you have to be consistent with your efforts.
I remember
I
like,
think Nishan,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, nothing, go ahead.
I was just to point out that Nishant had a question, but yeah, please go ahead if you want to say something.
No, okay.
No, I just had a pointer, but we are on the time now, so I don't know if you want to continue or next week or however.
Yeah, maybe hang on to that thought, and we'll start with that next week. How about
Okay.
that?
Okay.
Maybe you want to write it down so you remember it, because we all know how easy we can forget.
Right. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys. This was a lovely discussion, and let's continue this momentum next week. And I'll see you guys then. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, David. Thanks,
Thank you.
Pavini,
Thank you,
Swati,
Bhavani.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Is-
Thanks,
Sophie.
Alka, for
Is it o-
joining.
Bye.
Is it okay if I use the word I this week, or am I not supposed to?
Not supposed to.
What's
No
the
eye
rule?
for you this week.
Oh, no. Okay,
Well, if you
I will see
succeed,
you
then you get an
later.
ice cream.
Oh, wait a minute. David will see you later.
Yeah.
All right.
See
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Thank you.